Aloha, my friends. Welcome to the Growth Cast. My name is Tyler Devereaux. I'm here with Jackson Campbell, and we are about to blow you up with some Aloha Friday knowledge. First, I hope that you're having a great Aloha Friday, because we're having a great day as well.
And living with Aloha.
Always.
As always.
Peace. Wait,
yes.
That's the end. That's the end, not the beginning. Shit.
Oh, sorry. But we're doing that during.
Yeah, always.
As well.
Because we live always with Aloha. You get it.
Exactly.
All right, Jay, what are we talking about today, bro? So quick recap. We do a lot of episodes. Listen to them. They're all freaking bitching. And then also share all of them. Well, all the bitching ones, which are all of them. And then subscribe, review, rate. Whew. What are we talking about, Jay? Let's dive in.
Dude, we're continuing that framework of taking ownership of your life. This week is part 6. So step 6. And dude, if I don't say so myself, it may be the most important of them all.
Yeah, I love it.
Before we do that, though, let's maybe review those 7 steps.
Sweet.
Or the 5 prior to that we've already talked about. So we've already talked about these five steps. If you didn't listen to those episodes, definitely go back. It's the 5 past Aloha Friday episodes that you'll want to listen to. But in this framework, we identified 7 steps. The first 5 steps being identify your values is step 1. Step 2 is setting goals. Step 3 is taking responsibility. Step 4 is shifting your perspective. Step 5 is being proactive. And step 6 today, do you want to intro that? Yeah.
I agree, bro. It was probably the cornerstone behind all of it, right? The cornerstone behind all of it, which is taking care of yourself. You got to take care of yourself. And if you're truly going to take ownership of your life, you have to take care of yourself. You have to take care of yourself. So that's what we'll talk about today, man.
Awesome, dude. Last week, like I said, we talked about being proactive and how to make that happen and how to be a proactive person. I feel like a lot of the steps we talk about and that we have talked about and that we talk about on the Growth Cast, not only on the Aloha Friday episodes, but all of the principles we talk about kind of stem back to taking care of yourself and taking ownership and taking care of yourself. Would you agree with that?
Because we're the driver of the vehicle, right? Like we steer the ship and everything in our lives, and that comes from taking care of. So you think about some of the stuff we talked about yesterday, whatever, the last drip or whatever, right? Gratitude is one of them. And gratitude, I believe, is one of the biggest superpowers ever. It's one of the strongest emotions. Ownership means that you aren't entitled to anything, right? You're not entitled to anything, but you're grateful for everything. You're grateful for everything because you've chosen to be grateful as you're moving and grooving along the path. Solution-based perspective is another thing that we talked about. And growth is nourished by perspective. Really, everything is how we perceive it to be, right? Everything is how we perceive it to be, which is all comes down on us as well. Taking ownership is really, all this stuff is on you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Process over product is working on yourself is the epitome of, process-based goals. Resilient and persistent. Once again, these are all things we talked about on last trip. You become resilient and persistent by believing that you can be resilient by being persistent, right? Like self-belief stems from working on yourself. So, dude, everything, a lot of what we talked about yesterday or, last trip or whatever of being proactive stems from working on yourself, because when you work on yourself, you have the confidence to be proactive.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. Yeah. And, dude, and so good. It's so important for sure. Taking care of yourself is a monumental step that you have to do in order to implement these principles you're talking about. And it's almost like as you're talking about these principles, implementing them is, in fact, taking care of yourself. So it's like as you implement them, you're taking the steps to take care of yourself.
Totally.
There's a lot of things there that you just unpacked, right? And in those past episodes, there's a lot.
Totally.
There's a lot of things there. So, Ty, for you, when it comes back to taking care of yourself in order for you to do all those other great things, that can be heavy. That can be heavy and weigh on you. That could weigh on anybody, dude. You know what I mean? That's a lot. There's a lot there. It could weigh on you. There's stresses of life that come as well. So for you, what are the things that you hone in on when you might start feeling a little bit overwhelmed or feeling like your life's kind of maybe getting out of control, maybe getting out of your grips, dude? Is there is there areas in your life that you hone in on and focus in on?
Yep. So can I unpack one thing you said, though?
Yeah.
That it's heavy. And I mean, that's perspective.
Totally.
Right? I think that growth is a beautiful thing, man. I think that taking ownership of your life is a beautiful thing. And another thing that I would say is I don't just do these things when I'm feeling like things are getting out of control or when I do these things to make sure that, dude, life doesn't stem out of control. Now, life is still life. Like, shit's going to happen, right? But, like, these things help keep you grounded. So my big three, right? These are things, like, in my journal as I'm tracking throughout the day, right? In my morning routine, I want to, so spiritually, physically, mentally. So I want to do something that helps me grow in all those aspects, right? Physically, going to the gym, getting a good workout in, going surfing, whatever it is. Mentally, studying something. Spiritually, praying, meditating, like spiritually, mentally, and physically. If I can do those things, dude, the day starts off massive in the right direction. Like, I have momentum in the right direction, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that definitely makes sense. I want to unpack those three things.
Okay.
We'll dive into those three things. And you kind of just dove into why those three things are important for you, but do you mind diving in a little bit deeper on maybe how you came to realize those are the three things that are most important to you?
Yeah, dude.
And why? Yeah.
Yeah, trial and error, right? Like, trial and error. We're looking for balance. Balance is a fallacy. You don't truly have balance, but there are things that help you feel balanced, right? And all of those things that I just mentioned feed emotional growth and temporal growth, like financial growth, if you think about it. Like, if I'm growing mentally and I'm aligned spiritually and I'm physically capable and confident, do it emotionally and financially, I will be stable. So as I align these different things, anytime that my life feels out of whack, I know where to go search for the problem. And it's usually these little things that I haven't been doing. Maybe I've stopped meditating without even realizing it. You know? Maybe I've stopped really studying the way that I typically study. Maybe I've been half-assing my workouts, right? Like, I know where to come in and look if I'm emotionally unstable or emotionally, anything, right? Any of these, when life just feels out of whack, I know where to go troubleshoot. Most of the time, it's always there.
One of those three.
Yeah, I mean,
one of those things.
It's not an exact science, but most of the time, yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. No, and yeah, those three things are big enough and broad enough that usually something will fall under there that you need to fix.
Yep.
For sure. Okay, so let's dive into those three things, those three big things that you focus on. Physically was one of the things that you brought up. What is it that you do physically to take care of yourself, and how does that help you control your life?
So I've always been big on the physical side. My dad, we loved football, loved watching football with my dad, and we loved Deion Sanders, right?
How can you not?
Oh, come on, dude.
How can you not?
Deion, freaking prime.
Prime time, baby.
He would always say, you look good, you feel good, you play good, you get paid good. And so, like, dude, growing up, it was like, dude, no, you're going to look good, man. Your shirt's tucked in, like, playing sports or whatever. Your shirt's tucked in, you look good, right? And physically, I've always wanted to look good. Like, always. If I'm being real, most of the physical goals that I have, it's all vanity. It's all because of vanity. I want to look good. Like, that's just a fact. Like, I want to be able to go to the beach. And when I go to the beach, and if I don't want to take my shirt off, it's like, well, I need to get my shit dialed back in. It literally is where it stems from. Now, some people will look at that and think that's not good. I fucking highly disagree. Because what does that do? That forces me to continue to take care of myself physically. Your question is, what do I do to take care of myself physically, right?
Yeah, and how does it help you take control?
So think about that. That vanity, that motivator. You need to find out what motivates you, whatever that is, and then hone in on that. So that vanity of motivation, right? What does it help me do? Eat healthier. Helps me. I love to lift weights. I love to go to the gym and lift weights. Like, if I'm ever just feeling out of whack, dude, I know that I can go to the gym, and physically, taking care of myself physically and going to the gym helps me mentally for sure. Yeah. I also like hot yoga. In fact, I love hot yoga. Hot yoga challenges me. It makes me, anytime I go do hot yoga, and I just went last night, And I literally walk away from there and I'm like, man, I needed that. Like literally every time. So eating healthy, going to the gym, hot yoga, sleep. Dude, I have a pretty good sleep schedule. I go to bed early, I wake up early, but sleep is important, you know? So many people, when they're on the grind, where do they cut it out? They cut out their sleep. But man, sleep will impact you so many different ways. And then just my advice on this is the consistency of. It's not going in there and spending. I don't spend more than an hour in the gym. I don't. If I'm doing hot yoga, maybe the class is an hour 15 sometimes. Sure. But dude, I usually do not spend more than an hour. Like I get it done. I superset. Like you've maybe noticed me do that, but I superset like crazy. Like I'm in and out. I'm not chatting. It's not a social environment for me, even though it turns into social and you wave and stuff. But it's like, dude, I'm in and out and I'm efficient with it, you know?
Yeah.
So those are the things that I do though.
And how have you noticed those things help you take control of everything in your life?
Yeah. So I believe that being physically and mentally, like those tie in together.
Yeah.
Right. And like emotionally, right? I would call it emotionally. Like it helps me that way. But it's really confidence. Really, I believe, in fact, if you were to ask me or Britt, what's the major thing we want to help our kids obtain, it's confidence. Because if you're confident, you'll take the necessary actions. If you're confident, you'll be able to stand up for what you believe in spiritually, right? Your values. If you're confident, you'll be able to think bigger, right? Live better. Confidence. Those things give me confidence.
Man, that's huge.
Yeah.
That's huge. And that, I mean, and like you said, dude, that helps you take control of your life, having that confidence.
Totally.
Being able to be confident in the decisions you make, in the direction you're moving. It stems from you. It sounds like it stems from the physical.
Yeah.
The physical working out and doing those things.
Well, that's where it stems. I would say that's where it stems for sure. And honestly, it's been important in my life forever. So people stand out in different things in their life, right? And maybe you don't think you stood out in different ways. You have, if you've taken the time to realize it. Like going to school as an example. At school, I wasn't a standout in school. But I remember this. I remember going to swimming lessons, and I remember, at this point, I'd been doing push-ups and sit-ups for a while.
Yeah.
Right. My dad told me I loved football. I loved Barry Sanders, Herschel Walker. I loved running backs, dude. I followed running backs. My dad told me that they would do push-ups and sit-ups between, TV commercials, and so I would do the same thing. And I remember going to swimming practice, and I remember taking a picture with my buddy Rhett Mason. Rhett, no offense here. But I remember my family seeing that picture and being like, oh my gosh, look at you. Like, you look like you're freaking built. Like, you look like you're built. And that Rhett just looks like a normal, however old we were. And I was like,
adolescent boy.
Shit.
Yeah.
I felt like built my confidence. I remember 6th grade, like it was yesterday, bro. 6th grade, being on the phone. Back in the day, in my day, bro, you'd be on the phone.
Did it have a cord?
Cell phones.
Did it have a cord on it?
Definitely
attached to the wall.
Definitely had a cord. Maybe it was what? I don't know. Maybe it could
spin
be
dial.
cordless.
We talking spin dial?
Not get the out of here. But if you were like, I would be on the line with somebody, right, and they're three-weighing somebody else on the phone, so like you're all on. Mm-hmm. But what would happen is my mom apparently jumps on the phone. So when I hang up, they think that I've hung up, but my mom's still on, so she's still connected here. Okay. And they hear them talking about my six-pack because, once again, I had been doing push-ups and sit-ups for a long time.
Yeah.
I didn't have the most attractive face in the world. I just didn't, bro. I had acne. I had braces. I had but all of a sudden they talked about this feature. Oh man, his body. And I was like, I will never not have a six-pack again. Like that's so I become obsessed with it.
Yeah.
Right? But that stuff stems from confidence. Why? Because it was something that helped me stand out and build confidence.
Yeah. Yeah. And that confidence is where you have pulled so many of the beautiful and wonderful things in your life today.
Totally.
Is from that confidence that you have, dude. Interesting.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Thank you for sharing that. I'm kind of glad we kind of dove down that and dug that up a little bit. That's awesome, dude. That's awesome. Thank you for diving into the physical side too and why that's so important to you. I couldn't agree more. The more confidence that you build there, whatever that confidence is for you, right? It can be done through physical activity.
Totally, man.
It can be that. It can be that platform, right? Like for you, it's been that platform for confidence for you, being the physical, right? If I take a different perspective at it, physical for me, currently, that helps me believe and understand possibility and change.
Yeah, I like
and the
that.
good behind that.
Yes, I like that.
The road to that, right? So there's so many, like, no matter what it is physically that you're doing, again, just another perspective here, it can root back to those true root values and beliefs that you do hold, and can help you create new ones.
Yep.
And that's what it's done for me.
Yep.
And that's what it sounds like it did for you when you were young, trying to find your confidence too.
Totally.
You know?
Also, it's challenging, man. When you're pushing yourself, it's challenging. So like when I go to hot yoga or I go to the gym, I'm challenging myself. I'm pushing through things. I'm progressing in, different weights that I'm lifting, and it's like it's progression. So what does that help you? That helps you mentally as well, right?
Yeah, dude, so good. So mentally, let's dive into mentally.
Okay.
When it comes to taking care of yourself mentally, what is it that you do, man? Do you have systems that you use to check in with yourself mentally? Is it more Yeah. How do you take care of yourself mentally?
So when I say mental, I'm more mental and emotional kind of go back and forth with me. Like when I'm saying mental, most of the time I'm saying that I want to like study and grow mentally, right? So I'll do personal study in the mornings, and I'll so when you say systems, yes, I have systems where I read before I go to the gym, and I'll read, so I don't like to scroll on Facebook. So what I'll do is I try to make sure that I have a book that I'm reading at all times. Even a couple. Maybe I have one on one for real, like one that I'm like legit studying, and another one that I'm just reading. So like if I'm not fully in this mood of like taking notes but I don't want to just go freaking dive in on Netflix. I have some, like I just showed you this. I showed you that I'm listening to a Kevin Hart audiobook, which by the way is actually great principles. He always talks about great like growth principles, but I'm not taking notes, and it's not like I'm not studying. It's very entertaining, but I'm also growing, right?
And it's also growth, dude.
So what I'm consuming. So you said, do I have systems? Yes. I want personal study daily that provides confidence. Like as I'm growing mentally, right? My knowledge, I'm confident, dude. And then I'm using that. And anytime that I learn something, another system, anytime I learn something, I go try to explain it or teach it or use it throughout the day. So a lot of the times, like you'll see on these podcasts, I'll tap into a story, I'll tap into a principle. A lot of times that's something I'm just studying and learning, that I'm now trying to learn it at a higher level by regurgitating it, right? Same with my kids. Like I'm learning something, I'm trying to teach it to them at a different level. The other is meditation. Meditation, I could...
Really quick, before you dive into meditation, you threw out something there that I think you kind of brushed over it. I don't know if maybe I just noticed it and maybe you didn't notice it. You say you have two different books. You have one you're studying, that you actually sit down, read, and study, mark up, take notes. And then you have another one that's for entertainment that you just kind of have on and you listen to. What I think's awesome there that you didn't really point out is it's still a habit every single day that you're taking action towards reading and learning and growing. Yeah. So it's kind of cool that you have like that backup book that you turn on for those days that you don't feel like sitting down and reading and studying.
Agreed.
You have that like backup book that you can just turn on. But what that does is helps you keep that habit of learning and growing every single day from a book, right?
And I want to clarify, it's not just some random, for me, it's not just some random book on like story. It's like I'm learning from it.
There's
right?
definitely
it's personal development, something along. It's just an easier read than something like when I say study. There's books that like I literally want to dissect the whole freaking book and study, and I'm going to go implement it in a business strategy or something with my family or something here. So I'm like trying to gain principles from it, but then there's some stuff that it's an easier listen or a read or whatever.
Yeah. No, I just think that was awesome, dude.
Sweet.
It's awesome, actionable there for those that maybe have a hard time doing that but need to build that habit.
Do you know what else that does?
Have that for sure.
Because I track how many books I read a year, and it's something that I really like. It's a goal of mine because I know, dude. I know that if I can, my goal is typically around 30 a year, but I know that if I'm reading 20 a year at a minimum, I'm growing.
Nice.
For sure.
Okay.
And so as I'm checking off, it's a big deal to check off stuff. So as I'm checking off a book, and sometimes I'll finish 2 books simultaneously, right? Because I've been reading them. And when I'm checking off 2, it's like, boom, let's go, you know?
It's awesome.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Okay, dude. So, diving back into mentally there, you started to dive into meditation.
Meditation could go spiritually or mentally, in my opinion. It could. For me, because it very much hits me on both levels. Like, meditation, I also want to do daily. And if I'm being honest, that's the one that I'll slip up on. That I have the habit of slipping up on the most. That I will justify not doing. But I'll tell you, man, shit. You just saw me meditating yesterday in my office.
I did.
You know, it's like, that's important to me. When I do that, man, it provides clarity, right? Just clarity. You have to have, if you're building, I always related to this. Like, if you're building a fire, you need space in between the logs for the fire to burn and the air to get. It's like, that's how I look at it. Like, it provides this space. The world is busy. My life is busy. And so to be able to sit down, quiet the noise, and just do quiet the noise, whew, it's powerful, man.
Dude, I know that there's some people that can't, or that maybe have a hard time quieting the noise, or being able to sit long enough to be able to meditate.
Yeah.
What if you have a hard time doing that?
Love this question, bro. Like, first thing that I would say is to remove the verbiage and remove that narrative and enhance your belief. Like, you're fully capable of doing that. Person, whoever they're fully capable of doing it. But the more that they continually tell themselves that they can't do it, or they're not, they can't sit still, you're just feeding the belief that you don't want.
Right.
So feed the belief that you want. Some people think that that's, tree hugger, hippie, foo-foo shit. No, it's not, dude. It's like literally just changing your vernacular to move you in the direction of the belief that you want. So that's step 1.
It's so true, by the way.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree with that point more. We've talked about some powerful things on all these episodes. That's one of the most powerful things. You change your verbiage, you change your belief, for sure.
Yes.
For sure.
It's that first step of, because, dude, if you want to change your belief, it's hard to change your verbiage and then you're feeling it, right? Like, do I really believe it or not? And if you don't believe it, well, then you need to now take actions to believe it, right? And then that's really what it comes down to. Like, you need to make it easier to do. A habit comes by making it easier to do. So I believe there's a couple ways that you can do that, right? I would break it down to the 3 ways to make the action easier to do, which is, number 1, just increase your skills. Think about any habit or any action to make it easier. Increase your skills, man. You can increase your skills, and by increasing your skills, you make it easier to do, and by that turns up your volume on ability, right? But it also will help your confidence, because you're like, okay, shit, I'm doing this, right? Okay. The other side of that, and that comes from practice, by the way.
Definitely.
Just practice it.
Yep, doing it.
Consistency. That's the shortcut. Number 2 is use tools and resources. Something I'm very grateful for the time we live in now. There's so many tools and resources about this. Like, I don't know if you use any meditation apps, but I have probably 6 of them. You know what I mean? And they're all a little bit different.
Yeah.
And I'll use them for different times. Or I use noise canceling headphones, or I don't know if you've ever seen me in there. Sometimes I'll put on like an eye mask.
Yep.
But my eye mask that I use actually has headphones in it. So I wrap it around and it has headphones in, so it blocks out my eyes. But I can still listen to some sort of narrative if I want some narrative. I do usually like some ambient noise or a guided meditation. Guided meditations helped me a ton in the beginning. And then comfortable spot. Like, I was, most of the time when I was starting, people were telling me to sit Indian style. Well, dude, my hips are just tighter. And so for me to sit for any extended period of time in
your legs crossed
crisscross,
like that? Yeah.
You used to call it Indian style, but Bax told me you're not allowed to say Indian style. You can't say that, Dad. It's crisscross applesauce. So apparently that's racist or not sensitive.
Yeah.
I said Indian style, but it's hard for me to sit Indian style. Your perspective on how you take that's up to you, okay?
Yeah.
Change your narrative. But your tools, there's a little puff in there that I sit on.
Yeah.
Or I'll sit in a chair. Just tools to make it easier.
One of the things that I've noticed about like with especially with meditation is being comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Being comfortable and open to receive, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely being comfortable I think is a huge, whether that's sitting on the ground, whether that's laying on the ground, whether that's yesterday you were sitting on your couch.
Yep.
With your hands open. You know what I mean?
I love that you noticed
know
that
what I
too,
mean? That's
dude.
an open, you know what I mean? Being open to that
Receive.
inspiration or whatever it is that you're looking for at
Love
that
you
time,
noticed
dude.
that.
Very
and then
good.
make it tiny, dude. Like this is where it's the most simple thing, man. But I see people deal with this all the time where they want to start working out and they'll go to the gym for 2 hours. It's like shit. You know what I loved about working with Michael Chrysler? The workouts he started giving me in the very beginning were tiny. And I remember like seeing those and being like, shit, dude, this isn't going to challenge. But you know what it did? It created a habit of checking off every box, because the habit that I had been creating was I'd go to the workout with this whole list of shit that I wanted to get done, but I wouldn't check them all off. That tiny thing, now I was checking off all the boxes, and guess what? It felt good. And then the next week, or a couple of weeks, whenever he'd send me new workouts, he would do just a little bit more, and I'd check off all those. And the next time it was just a little bit more, and I'd check. Make it tiny, Instead of meditating, so the goal, right? So you set a starter step, or we call it a scale back. So let's say you want to meditate for 30 minutes or 20 minutes. Well, don't try meditating for 30 to 20 minutes because it's going to be very challenging.
Right.
Start with 2 minutes, and then 4 minutes, and then 6 minutes. Same thing with waking up early, dude. You want to wake up at 4:30, 4:15, but you're waking up right now currently at 8. Well, maybe wake up at 7, and then 6:30, and then 6. It's like
Yeah, it's with
steps.
anything. It's with
Yes.
anything with growing that and building that. That's awesome. Thank you.
Yep.
So meditation is huge for you, taking care of your mental health, in order for you to take control and ownership of your life. Dude, oftentimes, I don't know if you've seen it, I've seen it definitely, where from time to time people will use some sort of physical outlet to mask maybe the work that they should be doing on the mental side or the emotional side. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I've seen it before. I've seen it before where people they don't address what they need to address, whether that's mentally, whether that's a trauma that they haven't taken care of, and they use that physical outlet as almost a mask to hide those mental things.
Sure.
Right? Because one of the things we didn't mention here today, though, is like going to the gym, you release lots of dopamine. You release lots of really good feeling chemicals in your body.
Yep.
Which is a good thing. It just tells you that you should be working out, right? So kind of similar to how people maybe use drugs to cover up or mask an issue that they might be having in their life. People do the exact same thing with working out to get that good feeling, right? So, dude, it's like the question that I want to ask is, have you ever seen that happen? And what has that ever happened to you? What would you say to somebody that maybe that might struggle with masking their their emotions or their mental health with their physical health?
Well, first off, I think you can mask your emotions a bunch of different ways, not just physical side. Like, dude, you can mask. Well, you said drugs. There's so many ways you can mask it, right?
Yeah.
On the physical side, but so my advice would be to just literally ask yourself better questions. Like, so let's say we're going down the physical route. Somebody's working out to be able to mask their emotions on something else. Well, are you literally, like, first off, give yourself some grace. Like, drugs is a very different thing than physical.
Totally.
Hey, you're working out too much because you're masking your emotions. Well, fuck, there's a lot worse things you could be doing, right?
Definitely. 100%. Very, very true.
Are you masking the emotion, or are you trying to figure out how to deal with the emotion, right? Are you trying to figure out ways to deal with the emotion by continuing forward? But all these things are becoming aware. But you become aware by asking yourself better questions. So, dude, create a habit of asking yourself questions. Like, check in with yourself, right? What emotions are you trying to mask? And how come you're trying to mask those emotions, right? What are you trying to bury, and how come? And then like, what happens if they do come out? Okay, here's what I would do, okay?
Real quick, before you dive in, dude, I loved how you said ask yourself those questions. Why are you doing the things that you're doing? Why are you at the gym?
Yeah.
Why are you working on yourself? And really take that time to answer that question.
Totally.
Are you there because you're trying to work on yourself physically, you're trying to be more physically fit and healthy, or are you using that as an escape to other issues you might have to deal with in your life?
You're trying to figure shit out, right?
Yeah.
So give yourself grace that you're trying to figure it out. Like, life can be heavy. You kind of said that in the beginning. Life can be heavy. So you're trying to figure out the best way to get through that. Shit, celebrate that.
Yeah.
The worst thing you could do is just to do nothing. So understand that if you're doing something, you're at least doing something. Celebrate that, right?
Yeah.
But then, like, I look at what's the ideal state in your mind, right? What's this ideal state that you have? So maybe what are you uncertain about? What are these emotions that you have? And what's the worst case scenario if those emotions come out? Like, literally identify, like, writing it down.
Yeah.
What are these emotions that I'm dealing with? What happens if they come out? Like, literally, like, the monster in the closet is always scarier than the monster that you see face to face, right? So just address it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what is the worst case scenario that could happen? This applies, by the way, to freaking anything that you're going through, I believe. Then you identify your best case scenario. Okay, well, so if the emotions come out, what's worst case scenario? But what's best case scenario? How could that maybe be a positive? And then identify your ideal state, like your desired outcome, your desired end state. Like, what in your mind, you're dealing with this emotion and you're moving past this emotion. What does that look like to you? Are you still going to the gym? Are you still working out? But are you working out and then are you working out less? Are you working out more? Are you working out with not so much emotion? Right? Like, I don't know. What is it? What's that desired end state look like? And then write down what you can control right now. And maybe it's nothing. Maybe you can't even come up with something that you can control right now. What if one thing that you can control is your view that you really don't control anything, man?
Dive in there.
Because you really don't control anything. As much as I talk about focus on the controllables, in reality, you don't control any. Dude, there's a bigger, greater source, man. I'm sure we'll talk about spiritually. There's a bigger, greater source. What if these things that you're trying to control are actually what's holding you back? What if all these things that are going on in your life are actually for a greater purpose? Well, just what if? Like, tap into your resources, and I believe God's my greatest resource. So my belief is my greatest resource. So tap into that. Like, what do you have there? What can you control? Maybe it's nothing. Well, then you can control your faith. Control your faith that you can get through the scenario, and then, man, take action and continue to move in the direction. But show yourself grace. I just believe that taking any action is better than no action at all. But as you're taking those actions, why are you taking those actions? And then, dude, talk about it. Like, whatever emotion you're trying to mask, talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about it.
Be vulnerable with it.
Yep. Whether that's to yourself, by the way, or to other people. This first, like what we just went through, is to yourself.
Yeah.
Then go talk about it with a buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So good, dude. I appreciate you breaking that down and even pulling out those extra golden nuggets there, leading into spirituality, dude, and taking care of yourself spiritually. How do you take care of yourself spiritually?
Okay.
But before we dive into that, what does a spiritual healthy Tyler look like? Like, what does that look like to you if you're spiritually healthy?
I believe that is living in alignment with your values, right? Step one of all this was values.
Yeah.
What are your values? A spiritual, healthy Tyler is somebody who is aligned with their values and living in accordance to their values.
I really like that answer, dude.
Yeah.
Sweet. I really like that answer.
Good.
I just wanted to let you know that. Because I think a lot of times spirituality, a lot of people like go straight to religion with it.
Yep.
Go straight to, you know what I mean? Making sure that they're doing what their church wants them to do.
Sure.
So I love that you pulled out that value.
But they should do that. Like, honestly, if you are going to a church, their values should align with your values.
Absolutely.
And if they don't, well then
absolutely.
That's
what
a
are you
problem.
doing there?
Yeah, it's like, dude, people are so funny. They'll be like, well, I'm spiritual, but I'm not religious. Like, Okay. Tell me anything. Like, think about the government as a whole. Laws. Think about just laws. What if there were no laws? Like, that's what really religion does, is give you some laws to abide by. Okay? So what if there were no laws in this world? It'd be a fucking fiasco. It's like, it just is laws that we abide by to maintain order. That's all this is. But laws come from yourself, man. Like, what are your values? What are your laws? Because if you're not living in accordance to them, there'll be this internal struggle, dude, that is not taking care of yourself. Now, this is a slippery slope, though, okay? It's a slippery slope because we are human beings who will make mistakes. So I have a set of values, right? And you know what? I mess up on those values all the time. You want to know what one of my values is?
Yeah.
Is, dude, just being kind. In fact, kind and patient towards people, man. That's what it is.
Yeah.
But in reality, bro, like sometimes I don't have that patience. And sometimes I'll have this interaction and I'll be like, shit. Or we'll be like, I was not patient, whether that be with my kids, whether that be with somebody at work, whether that be with, dude, but then it's grace and being like, okay, how come? How could I do it better the next time? And I just believe once again. Well, dude, being a parent has helped me a ton with this, okay? That I'll watch Paxton or I'll watch Marley and they'll mess up with something. And I don't care that they messed up. Shit, they're going to mess up. Like, we are here. But the minute that they will just own it and be like, hey, gosh, I'm sorry. This is what I did wrong. We have this thing. It's like, once you apologize, this is what I can do to make it better. And when they do that, it's like, oh, my God, like, cool, let's go. You know? Yeah. It's like, I believe that if you think about God, right? God wants to give us everything. I just believe that. But we earn those things. Like, when we live in accordance to our values, we become worthy of more. Like, everything is in line with growing and for his purpose, right? And what is that purpose? It's love. You know, it's showing love to others, and it's just, dude, it's growing other people, and it's just like, it's that, you know, it's what the stem of it is. And so, yeah, it's living in accordance to your values. How do I do that, though? First off, I define my values. That's step one in this entire process for a reason. Because once you identify your values, then you live in accordance to those values. Mm-hmm. Once you identify your values and your goals, you make decisions in line with, dude, that.
Yeah.
Right? Just doing that alone will breed massive confidence. It just will.
And clarity.
And which clarity is, you know, a proponent of confidence. Like, when you're clear about what you're working towards, and you're working towards it, that's confidence, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely, dude.
So how do I do it, though? Define the other way. Dude, I'll tap into that spiritual side all the time. Pray. I've always prayed, and I've prayed. And when I say always, I literally mean I've always prayed, bro. I used to be terrified of the devil. Have I ever told you this?
Yeah, I think we've talked about it. I think we've talked about it on the pod.
Really?
I think so.
Terrified. About a neighbor?
I think so.
Oh,
but, let's rehash it, though, if you don't mind.
I had a neighbor tell me that I'm a young kid, dude. I'm probably like 6.
Yeah.
And my neighbor told me that he got, like, attacked by the devil, like overtaken by the devil. And I was like
possessed? Like,
yeah.
Okay.
Scared the shit out of me, bro.
As a child, that sounds terrible. Like, yeah.
For a long time, though.
Especially if you had never heard anything like that before, too. Like,
terrified me.
Yeah.
So I pray, bro. It was the only thing that really would help me was when I would pray.
Yeah.
And so I've always prayed. Even in my deepest, darkest times. Like, I remember, like, going to, you know, I was in, you know, the little bit of time when I went to college. Very little bit of time.
Sure. Short semester.
Well, it's like half a semester 2 times. So full semester in total. Okay.
It's so funny because it's like identical to mine.
Dude, and I would go and I would freaking party and do shit that were definitely not in line with my values. Mm-hmm. But I would pray every night because I believe, you know what I believed? I believed that the minute that I already allowed this other side, but the minute I allow that I think that I'm not worthy enough to pray, that's when the devil's won. That's when the devil's won. And once again, the devil ain't going to win. Right? Yeah. So I'm going to pray. And praying has been massive. You think about really what praying is it's bringing I don't pray and I don't beg when I pray. I don't. When I'm praying, I'm praying about the things and the values, the goals that I'm working on. I'm definitely apologizing for things that I've done wrong, acknowledging that, but I'm also showing massive amounts of gratitude and just faith in forward growth, So I like to go to church too. I like to serve other people. When I'm serving other people, I feel great, That's aligned with spiritually.
No, that's so good. It's so good. I want to come back real quick to the values and making sure like spirituality, a healthy spiritual Tyler looks like somebody that's living in accordance to their values. How do you remind yourself of those values? How do you tune in with those values? Because we're changing people change, and we get new experiences, and that might change our view on things. And how do you check in with those values, and do they change for you?
Values, I will say, could they? Sure. But my values very rarely change, dude, because my values come down to being my best self with love for myself and love for others. Like, really, that's ultimately what it comes down to. So if I am doing something to myself that is not taking care of myself, think about the episode, taking care of myself, that's not love for myself. It's not in line with my values. If I'm doing something that is hurting or harming others, it's not in line with my values. It's not in line with God's values. Right? So those will very rarely change, though. Could they? Sure. Could they enhance and get more deep, like enhance? Yeah.
That's a better way to put it.
Yeah.
They don't change. They just get better.
Yeah. Your standard of excellence gets higher.
Yeah. That's exactly what it is. But what do you do to check in on those? Do you check in on your values often, or are they just
all the time, dude?
Yeah.
I'm checking in on my value because I want to. So, dude, it goes back in line with what you just told me about, or what the question you asked about masking emotions. I want to feel, dude. I want to feel. Like, I don't want to be numb. I've been numb in my life, and I don't want to be numb. That's why, it's honestly, bro, it's why I don't do any mind-altering substances. It's because I don't want that anymore. I've numbed myself for a long time. I numbed myself for a long time through different things that was never serving. So I don't do any mind-altering substances because I don't want to numb myself. I want to feel, dude, because when I can feel, that's how I check in. Do I feel great right now or not? Do I feel like I'm making movement, progression, and growth for the long term, not just the short term? The long term, I want to feel it. So how do I do it? I very much tap into my emotions, and I'm okay to be emotional.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, dude, that's amazing. And you do that through meditation? How do you tap in? That's why I'm trying to get
my
to
emotions all the time. Just meditation, dude. I'll be speaking as an example, and I'll be talking about something that makes me like emotional. I'd be like, oh shit.
That's important to me.
That's important to me.
Yeah. For
a reason. Family, as an example, like, dude, I'll talk about that shit all the time, and it'll make me emotional. There was a time, dude, I was just recently, man, where I love the grind, dude. We're talking about values, okay? This is a great example of this. I work hard, man. I work hard. I grind. I enjoy it because I'm progressing towards. But one of my other values is time with family. Well, dude, I'm in the office in Orlando, and I'm talking about, I can't remember what we're talking about, but really family got brought up. Oh my God, I broke down, started crying like a little bitch. And it's because I had bit off way more than I could chew. I'd been gone for way longer than I should have been gone for. And I was feeling this wear internally because I felt like I was being a burden to my family. And it's the opposite of what I want to be. And all of a sudden I felt this, and I was like, oh shit, I got to get home.
Yeah.
I got to take some time to pour into my family like I've been pouring into my work. I don't ignore it. I don't mask it. It's this, I celebrate that I caught it. Like, okay, man, this is the world, or this is the universe, or this is God trying to remind me, hey man, it's time to.
That's what's important to you.
Yep.
And remind you of that, dude. That's awesome that you're so in tune, and such a good actionable too. To make sure you're in tune with that.
Yeah,
like a lot of the things that we're talking about today, asking better questions, being in tune with your emotions, like paying attention to those things, dude. A lot of these things that we've talked about thus far comes back in my mind, if we could put it into one word, is like consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
Being conscious of the things you're doing.
Totally.
Being conscious of your mental health and the questions you're asking yourself. Being conscious while you're at the gym, why you're doing the things that you're doing. Being conscious here spiritually. Why are these values so important to me? And just being conscious of yourself and learning yourself as you better yourself, right?
Do you want to know why I love that, bro? The word conscious. For whatever reason, that just made me think of like when I was first starting like the investment company, like that, which was a grind, by the way. Brit's working, I'm just grinding. But I will numb myself, listen, in the short term for the conscious long-term benefit. For example, there was a time in my life where I had to grind if I was going to get to where I wanted to in the long term. Brittany and I consciously talk about what's coming down the pipeline. It was like a 10, 11 week span that we knew. And I was like, this is the span. This is what I know we're doing, and it's because of this greater long-term purpose. We are on board with that. We understand what needs to happen. So during this time, I don't want to talk about my emotions. I don't want to talk about how fucking hard it is. I don't. I just want to talk about, I want to honestly become almost numb to it. I know that I just told you I don't like to be numb, but I don't like to be numb in the long term or numb not intentionally or consciously, right? This is like, I know that I'm about to grind. And you know what? Sometimes life is fucking shitty.
Yeah.
Sometimes moving through shit and like breaking through new barriers is shitty in the short term. And that's why most people aren't willing to do things in the short term to get into the long-term benefit. They want to stay comfortable in the short term, which means they're never comfortable in the long term, right? So when we identify this, when we see this, when we come to grips with that, now it's like, okay, I'm going to put my head down, compartmentalize, and get through it. You know what? It makes it better. It does make it better because I'm working towards something consciously, to your point, towards a greater end. So sometimes you got to do that shit too.
Dude, it's I love that. I love that example, dude. I love that example because if you're doing those things like numbing yourself, for example, like you just brought up, if you're doing it consciously for a purpose and you know the effects that it's going to have on you and you're checking in on that and that you know that there's a reason for it and that there's an end to that sacrifice as well.
Yep.
Dude, it comes back to that word consciousness. You consciously made that decision to go through the grind. You knew it was going to be hard for 12 weeks because you knew you were going to get somewhere. You made that decision and you were conscious about that, dude.
I think guess what happens at the end of that? Confidence, gratitude, like, man, I can do this. I'm grateful that I got through it. And you're so grateful.
And the things that you would have learned throughout that 12-week span in this example that you wouldn't have learned if you didn't consciously make the decision to choose that hard thing.
Yes, gosh, that's a great way to put that too. Yep, love that.
So good, man. I had a couple more questions here, but we're a little over on time.
Okay.
So I'm going to wrap these couple last questions into one question.
Okay.
You're a dad, you're a CEO, you're a great friend, you're an uncle, you're a son. What else are you?
Oh, shit. Lots of things. I don't even know.
You're not a sister. You're a lot of things, dude. You have a lot of things, a lot of titles, and a lot of people that look to you. You're a leader. A lot of people that look to you that you could say that you take care of in a sense, whether that's your kids at home and home life being a dad, whether that's your team members and your coworkers. There's a sense there of you taking care of a lot of individuals. How do you continue to take care of your family, your employees and your team members? How do you take care of them, right? We've talked about taking care of ourselves this entire episode, how you take care of yourself. How do you take care of them and help them take care of themselves without it affecting you and how you take care of yourself?
I love this question, bro. The whole time you were asking this question, I was like, this is awesome freaking question. And it's an awesome question because I'm going to take a different route than probably what most people would think. And think about this. Do I want my kids to need me?
You might selfishly want that.
Well, say it again.
You might selfishly want that.
How come?
Because it gives you a sense of papa. Papa Bear. You know what I mean? Being dad, and that
I
makes,
love how you
know what I
said
mean?
that, though, because that's exactly it. You want to know how I uncovered this? A mentor of mine asked me that question. And you know what I said? Well, I mean, yeah, sure, yes.
Yeah.
Like, I want my kids to know that I'm there for them. And that, when they need me, he's like, see, that's selfish. It's about you. So you want your kids to need you, not because of you. You want to have purpose, right? So your question, how do all these people that I take care of, if you will, did I take care of myself? Do you know what happens when I take care of myself? First off, I'm in a better position to help other people. But dude, I'm showing them how to take care of themselves. Literally, you're living by example. That's what you're doing. You look at one of the greatest leaders. Who's one of the greatest leaders of all time?
Is this going where I think it's going?
Yep.
The greatest example of leadership and leader, in my opinion, is Jesus Christ.
Yep. Me too. Mine too. And what did he do? He led by example, dude. He was the ultimate example. So when you live your life to this standard of excellence and you take care of yourself, that doesn't mean you don't take care of others. I want to be very clear. But by taking care of yourself, you are now in an elevated position to take care of others. But you also show other people that they can also take care of their life. Mm-hmm. They can do it. They can take ownership of their life. And how do they know they can take ownership of their life? Because they've just seen you take ownership of your life, which gives them confidence that they can do the exact same thing. Now, how do I help them with it not affecting me? I think was part of the question.
Yeah.
I also believe like that's perspective, right? I believe that by helping them, by guiding them, by coaching them, by teaching them, it's helping me. This is perspective of that shouldn't be draining. That should be, that should be energizing. But if it is draining, maybe you're pouring into the wrong people, or maybe you're doing the wrong things, or maybe, just maybe, you haven't taken care of yourself enough to be in an elevated position to take care of the people that you want to take care of. That's it.
So good. So good. Tyler,
love that question, bro.
Dude,
That's a great question.
Dude, thank you for breaking down those three things. I know those three things are so important to you. Your physical health, your mental health, and your spiritual health, dude. So I appreciate you taking the time to breaking down those three things, why they're important to you, how you take care of yourself. Massive amount of actionables have come from these things, dude. So I very, very much appreciate that. Is there anything that you want to say here as we wrap up, kind of reviewing those big three things that you need to own in order to take care of yourself? Is there anything you want to say here to kind of wrap up?
You're worth it. You're worth it. You are worth taking care of yourself. And as you're taking care of yourself, you're going to feel selfish sometimes. You're going to feel, I don't know, but you're worth it. And especially when you take care of yourself for others, like you're taking care of yourself and amplifying yourself to take care of others, dude, that's a noble cause. It's a noble cause. And it leads in the Hawaiian Value. You mind if I lead into that?
Real quick.
Yeah.
I just want to, real quick before we end the episode, I just want to thank you for being an awesome example of these things for me. Right, one of the last things you talked about here was how I asked you, how do you take care of your team members and your teammates and your employees, and what is it that you do there? And it's and you said by being an example, by doing it, by doing these things that I'm preaching. And I can't echo that enough, dude, that you do that.
Thanks, bro.
And your actions are always going to be louder than your words. Always, no matter what. Your actions should be so loud that I can't even hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
Love that quote. And your actions definitely follow these things you were talking about today, dude. So I want to just take a time to give you your roses and say thank you
Thanks,
for that,
bro.
dude.
Appreciate
Thank you
that.
for just, it's elevated me, dude. You know that ever since I've moved out here to Hawaii. It's almost been 2 years now. That's kind of crazy to think about,
nuts.
dude. But my life's been elevated massively. There's been challenges.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And your example through that has been massive for me.
Thanks,
so
man.
I appreciate you, dude.
Thank you, dude. I appreciate that a ton.
Yeah.
Thank you for taking ownership of your life.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
Because also a great example. You know what it also does? motivates the shit out of me to keep doing that shit.
Good, dude.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. Thank you, bro.
Yeah, no, of course, dude. Thank you, man. So the Hawaiian value.
The Hawaiian value is malama. And malama means to care for and protect. And a lot of the times out here in Hawaii, you'll hear it associated with what's called malama ka'aina, which means to care for the land. Right? Hawaiians love the land. They care for that land, right? It's their livelihood. It's what they live off of. Well, and then malama can also be in accordance to the needs of other people. And that brings a lot of purpose in our life when we take care of other people, which is why a lot of the times we will take care of them before we ever take care of ourselves. But in reality, you can't fully take care of other people at the level that you truly want to take care of them at until you take care of yourself. So malama, right, when we care for and we protect ourselves spiritually, mentally, emotionally, financially, intellectually, right, we'll experience the true meaning of wealth, man. The true meaning of wealth, which is this amplified position to be able to take care of other people. And man, when we mentioned this, but like when we actively seek opportunities to take care of and build ourselves for others, we put ourselves in a position to better care for and build others, you know? So take care of and build yourself so you can take care of and build others, right?
Yeah.
And when you do that, man, and you live your life with this principle of malama, you find yourself, you find purpose, you bring meaning, you help others do the exact same thing. And that's what life's about. You know, I literally believe that's what life's about. Life is about connection. And when your ability to connect with yourself and know yourself, like another aspect of spiritual, when I say living in accordance to your values, it's like nobody knows that for the most part. I mean, obviously people will see, things will show up, but nobody knows really how you're doing that more than you, which is why it's so important to identify your values and then live in accordance to those values. Because just by sometimes you may be living in a great way, but you haven't identified what your values are, so you'll be in disarray. But if you just identify them, then live in accordance to them, you'll be at peace with yourself. When you're at peace with yourself, you'll be able to connect with yourself. You'll be able to connect with others at a whole nother level, dude. Yeah, that's what life's about.
I couldn't agree with you more, dude. Couldn't agree with you more.
Anything else you want to add on?
No, dude. Just great episode. Thank you. Thank you for diving into these principles, kind of opening up. Like, it's the cornerstone of taking ownership of your life.
Yep.
You know, like this was step 6 that we talked about, but it's one of those steps again that you're doing throughout the entire time of taking ownership of your life. So no, thank you, man. So good.
Love it. Hey, hopefully you pulled some value, some meaning, some purpose from today, and that you will be more dedicated, man, to taking care of yourself as you are dedicated to taking ownership of your life, man. So take control, take ownership, take care of yourself, and live always with aloha. Peace.